There is an extremely convenient wormhole out of Thera right now to Galente Highsec, just a small handful of jumps from Omamake. I think we're going to move quite a lot of stuff out through this hole. In fact, I think we might be at the point of permanently decamping from Thera. If we move enough stuff out now, there may not be a reason for us to go back to Thera before we actually build the Cynabal. But before we get to shuttling all of our worldly possessions out of Thera and back into known space, we have a little business to attend to. Thermosetting polymer, carbon fiber, oxyorganic solvents, sulfuric acid, bam, 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 bam. Which means we can now react up our reinforced carbon fiber, 2 runs. We can now react up our pressurized oxidizers, 1 run. We can react up our stress responding Neuralink stabilizer, 1 run. And we can react up our goal orienting Neuralink stabilizer, 1 run. Now, while these jobs are running, I want to talk about the big item left on our to-do list. We are going to need 60 AngelNet resonators to build the Cynabal since the changes to the build cost in Equinox, which means we are going to need 60,000 Angel Cartel loyalty points. We have been enlisted with the Malachim Zealots since like episode 3 or 4, but up until this point, it has mostly been a matter of pride. We are members of the Angel Cartel, but we've not been very active in our militia. Well, that's about to change because the Malachim Zealot loyalty point store does have the AngelNet resonators, and there are a lot of interesting ways to earn loyalty points in faction warfare. We're probably going to explore several of those possibilities, but the one that I am most intrigued about is that you can earn loyalty points for the Malachim Zealots just through PvP, just by killing people enrolled with the Amar Militia or the Minmatar Militia. And so, today, we are going to be taking another crack at solo PvP in faction warfare space. I am excited about this, you guys. But the big question is, what ship, what hull are we going to use for this misadventure? Well, I think it is well past time that we get back to our roots. This is Bill. Bill wants to build a Cynabal and join the Angel Cartel cause in Zarzak, but he's not making it easy on himself. $150mm light autocannon 1 blueprint, 60,000 ISK. Small projectile metastasis adjuster 1 blueprint, 125,000 ISK. Tracking speed disruption script, 1.5 million ISK. Optimal range disruption script, 1.5 million ISK. Longtime Corvette to Cynabal viewers will probably remember the first faction warfare solo PvP episode. It was episode number 21, which is exactly 50 episodes ago from this one. In that episode, I went on a long rant about why a blaster afterburner scram catalyst is pretty much never gonna win a 1v1 fight against any thinking opponent in pretty much any ship, even though the catalyst has great DPS and a pretty decent pool of hit points. The truth is that gank and tank don't matter at all if you don't have some way to control the engagement and force it into your areas of strength. Well, Angelica the Slasher here, she does about 1 DPS and she has about 2 hit points. But by God, she has a plan. Oh, I love this fit. The Slasher is already a very fast and nimble ship, but I've put on 2 polycarbon rigs to further increase the speed and agility, so that with our afterburner heated, we're going something like 1900 meters per second. That means with a web, which we have, we should pretty much always have range control against other one web ships, and probably also against slower two web ships. And the range that we want to control to is no range at all. We're using 150mm autocannons, which are short-range guns. We really only do decent DPS out to about 3,000 meters. And I mean, bear in mind that decent DPS here is like 50 to 70. But we want to get into that tight 500-meter orbit and go as fast as we can. To make sure that our guns keep hitting when we're doing that, I've put on a Tech 2 Metastasis Adjuster, which is the tracking speed rig. And to make sure our opponent's guns do not keep hitting us while we're doing that, I've put on a tracking disruptor. We are not playing fair here. We cannot win a stand-up DPS race. If we go toe-to-toe with our opponents and just unload our guns into each other, this slasher loses every time. But that's fine. The lesson from the Catalyst example in episode 21 was that you don't go into a PvP engagement looking to win an uncomplicated DPS race. You go into it looking to complicate the DPS race into some knot where whatever DPS you're doing is enough. And in the right circumstances, our 72.5 DPS is going to be enough. And to make sure that's the case, we've also got a neutralizer, which we can pretty much permanently run if we're not using our armor repairer, which means that if we do run into an opponent who can actively tank 72 DPS, we can just nuke them out until their tank turns off. Now, I don't mean to make it sound like this is an overpowered solo ship. It absolutely is not. We die to a stiff breeze. We are going to be walking the razor's edge in every fight, and if our opponent has the right counterplay, they are probably still going to win. But with good target selection, this thing can actually win fights. So let's get out there and select some targets. Okay, we are explicitly hunting war targets here. We can only get Malachim Zealots loyalty points by killing members of the Minmatar or Amar militia. Because they're war targets, we can fight them anywhere. We don't have to worry about sentry guns, but the places that we're most likely to find them, especially to find them by themselves, are in small and novice complexes. Here's a Dragoon in this complex. We can't really fight a Dragoon because it's a drone ship. So I'm using D-scan on 5%. to check and see who's in the small scout and occasionally medium complexes. A lone frigate or destroyer can run a medium complex, so it's not unheard of to find them there. Hookbill is a missile ship, also not what we're trying to fight. I do see a couple of ships on the wide D-scan that I could potentially engage, but I'm not actually seeing them at any of the complexes. We may have to move beyond Amamake to find our first fight. 5 coercers is not the fight for us. 4 war targets here in Vard. Nothing's on D-scan now, but the scout and the small, there is a scout and a small out of D-scan range. So we'll work over there. I'm going to preheat my armor rep, just because you're always going to want to run an ancillary armor rep heated. The amount of heat that it goes through while running through its 8 charges is never enough to burn it out. Oh, I didn't even mention I am running an ancillary armor repair loaded up with nanite paste that I stole from Vagi when I killed his Omen Navy issue. That's a really big deal here. We don't have very many hit points at all, but the AAR repairs quite quickly while it has charges, so it gives us essentially a little bit of buffer for free. Oh, the other thing about AARs is that when they do run out, if they're out of charges and you deactivate the armor repairer, it will by default automatically start reloading itself, and we don't want that. You can run it without charges, it repairs a lot less hit points, but the reload takes 60 seconds, and the kind of fights that we're likely to get into, 60 seconds is the fight will probably be over. So if we're gonna put our AAR into reload, we want to be choosing to do that intentionally. We don't want to just do it on its own. I'm warping to the complexes at 100 kilometers to let me get eyes on what's inside and outside before I commit to a fight. These complexes, you actually can slide through the acceleration gate from up to 100 kilometers away. So it's okay that we land on the edge of it. If there's something inside, we can still slide without delay. There are a lot of people in Auga local, but Auga is the usual staging system for the Mimitar fleet, which means that there's often a lot of people docked up here, but often not a lot of people in space. So I have at this point traversed about 7 systems, and I've passed up on like 2 or 3 fights that I could have taken, although all of them would have ended in my quick and tragic death. When you're trying to find a kill in an underpowered ship like we're flying right now, it really is a game of patience. You need to be very selective about who you're going to fight, and you need to be willing to spend a lot of time looking for just that right fight. We will find it. Whether we win or not is another question, but we will eventually find a fight I'm happy to take. All right. There's a slicer. This is interesting because a slicer we can easily kill, assuming it's fit with the standard micro warp drive and long range guns, if we get it in scram range. Of course, slicers also famously are great kiters, but I can reload optimal range disruption and maybe force him to come closer. All I gotta do is make him just edge within heated web range, and things will get very interesting. Where is he? I don't want to look too dangerous right off the bat. Oh, that's actually a problem. I was like, I can't force him too close. If he tries to kill me from outside 27 kilometers, I'm going to have to bolt. But he can't point me, at least not for very long, at 27 kilometers. There we go. Okay, the tracking disruptor is doing its job. Let me just stop heating my AB, lest I burn it out. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to cut him off in his orbit, so that I can, as soon as it gets within 13 kilometers of me, I can heat my web. He's coming in closer. He's coming in closer. I'm clicking in space. Okay, I'm gonna fly away. I'm gonna fly away. And then once he starts giving chase, I wish I hadn't heated my AB so much at the start. Because now what I gotta do is I've got to suddenly turn direction towards him. And see if I can get within 13 kilometers. Gotta be watching for backup to come too. Okay. Lost target lock. I'm actually gonna turn off my AB for a second, and I'm gonna use some of the paste in my hold to repair it slightly. while he's deciding what to do next. And then when he comes on his next approach, okay, I am freezing time from the editing room just to point out how insanely close this was. If I could get warp scram on this guy, the fight would be over. I'd get into a tight orbit, I would melt him. It would be done. But my warp scrambler, when heated, only reaches out to 9 kilometers. So you can see here, the message has popped up saying, unable to apply warp scrambler to this guy because he needs to be closer than 9,000 meters. But if you look here, he's 8,844 meters away, and if you look here, he's 8,606 meters away. It comes down to a tick mismatch. For one tick, this slicer was in scram range, and I was spamming the warp scram hotkey, but my scram was processed one tick too late. By the time the server tried to put the scram on the guy, he was already just back out to like 9,001 meters, and gotta do it all again. Slingshotting ain't easy, my friends. Burned out my AB. Killed myself by bad heat management. But I got out. Good fight. Man, oh, the adrenaline was going there. If I'd not heated until that last second, if I'd been able to keep heating my AB and my web when I finally got him within 13 kilometers, things would have gone very different, but I never quite landed the scram on him. I'm going to repair up and see if he wants to try another go at that. Oh, wow. Gotta keep descanning on short range in case someone comes in to crash our party. See, the comet's coming now. Even if that comet is not on the same team as the Pickled Pea, if I'm hanging around on a grid with a comet and a slicer, I'm probably just gonna die. The comet killed the slicer, and I can't really fight a comet. That's too bad. I really wanted another shot of that slicer. Well, carry on. I'm really pleased that I got away from that fight with the slicer with my ship intact. I really shouldn't have. But once he realized that my afterburner was dead and that I was no longer an immediate threat, he pulled back out to the edge of point range. And in doing so, he went just that little bit too far. And because I have fast align, I was able to take my moment and warp off. When you have the kill ready, you gotta go for it. I don't know why. I don't know why he decided he needed to pull back up to 24 kilometers. It was a big mistake. So what kind of ships are we looking to fight in Angelica the Slasher? Obviously, ships that use drones and missiles as their primary weapon system are right out. we are using a valuable mid slot on this tracking disruptor, and if that module is just a blank, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble. Also, we have very little tank, so if we can't mitigate incoming damage in some way, then we're just going to die before our 70 DPS can eat through anything. So really, we are talking about exclusively fighting turret ships. And we need to be fighting turret ships that we can get within web and scram range of. As you saw with that slicer, when they're holding that 20-some kilometer range on us, we're in a lot of trouble. Slingshotting is hard. It's possible, and the ability to use the tracking disruptor in optimal range suppression mode does help, although our 27 kilometer locking range works against us. So ideally, we want to be fighting short-range turret ships, and ideally, we want to be fighting short-range turret ships that are already going to have a little bit of trouble tracking us when we're in a tight orbit. So we're looking at things like rifters. We can beat pretty much any rifter, whether it's autocannon or artillery, I would expect. Other slashers, I think this fit beats most conventional slasher fits, although there are the occasional micro warp drive artillery kiting slashers, and those could cause us a bit of a headache. Tormentors would be a good thing to try and fight. They do have a couple of drones, but it's only 2, and I'm pretty sure that Angelica could kill 2 Tech 2 drones before our tank broke. Executioner, maybe. Executioner is another ship that you're likely to see trying to kite, but a Punisher, whether it's with lasers or autocannon or artillery, should be something we could probably take down, although it would take us a while to eat through a Punisher's hit points. On the Caldarian Galente side, it's a bit tricky because we have a pretty good matchup against a Railgun Merlin or a Railgun Atron or a Railgun Incursus. But all 3 of those ships are more commonly fit with blasters. I do think that we can kill a blaster ship. They track pretty fast, but the tracking disruptor will make a difference. And if need be, if we have range control, we can range damp the blaster ships. Regardless though, blasters are pretty cap hungry, and we've got the neutralizer, so we don't have to survive indefinitely under blaster fire. We can eventually try and nuke them out. I think that's mostly our list of targets when it comes to Tech 1 frigates. I do think that reasonably we could try taking on a destroyer. A coercer would be a good target. A tracking disruptor causes a lot of trouble for a coercer, unless it's dual web fit, dual web no prop, which is uncommon. I don't think that we can reasonably kill a blaster, catalyst, or cormorant because they get a tracking speed boost and a range boost. So there's just not going to be anywhere safe for us within scram range of them. Even if we're in at 500 and tracking disrupting them, tracking boosted blasters are going to still be tracking us at least a bit, and doesn't take a very large percentage of a catalyst's damage to eat through us. So in fact, this might be the one fight a catalyst could win, except that we would just leave. A railgun catalyst or cormorant we could kill, but catalysts are rarely fit with rails. If we see a corm, we'll be tempted to go for it. The Thrasher is going to be a tough call. An autocannon Thrasher is a pretty interesting target for us. An artillery Thrasher, if we could get under the artillery, then it would be great. Game over. It would never hit us. But we have to land on grid and start moving, and that doesn't happen instantly. Artillery Thrashers are what you see most often, and a lot of them are fit dual web, which means that they don't have a scram, but there's no need to scram us down if one volley, that alpha we were talking about last episode, one volley from a well-fit and skilled Thrasher could potentially kill us. So if we see a Thrasher, I might go for it, but it's going to be a big gamble. On the faction frigate front, the Firetail is an interesting problem. I should definitely not engage a Firetail, but I will for sure be tempted to do so. Even though the tracking disruptor will cause them problems, the Firetail is inherently a super fast ship, and it's often fit with dual webs, so we almost certainly will not have range control, and without range control, we just can't mitigate enough damage. So Firetail, very large gamble, probably verging on just a straight no. The Comet is similar. The Comet has all of the problems we talked about with blaster ships before, but it also has 3 drones and a pretty solid capacitor, so there's just not a path to victory, I don't think, against a Comet. Hookbill is a missile ship. And then there's a Slicer, which, as we saw, I mean, it's an interesting engagement. We can definitely kill them if we can catch them, but a good Slicer pilot won't let us catch them. I'll probably chase another Slicer around a bit if I do see one, but I'm expecting those fights to mostly be draws. And maybe occasionally we'll run into a really good Slicer pilot who can hold us right at that perfect range for them and kill us. I don't think any of the faction destroyers are engageable. They're just too pushed for a small weapon platform. Maybe a Cormorant Navy issue if we could catch it. I think that's about it. A Coercive Navy issue, even if we could catch it, it would take us literally weeks to eat through its hit point pool. And then on the cruiser level, no, we just can't engage cruisers. We might be able to get under their guns, but pretty much every cruiser is going to be packing either a medium newt or a full flight of light drones, and we don't have a way to deal with either of those. So this, I assume I've made a graphic and put it up. This is really our list of engageable targets. And when you're flying around solo, you really should go through this exercise of thinking about all of the ships you might encounter and thinking in advance of which ones you have a plausible way to victory against. And then you're going to be looking to fight those ships. And if within those ship classes, within those ships that are on your target list, there are some fits that cause you trouble, you're going to want to be really scoping out as quick as you can whether or not the ship that you're engaging is likely fit in that way, so you can adapt your strategy or bug out if you need to. Really, target selection wins fights. This is what I'm saying. If we were just sliding into every complex and taking every engagement that was offered to us, we'd already be dead several times over by this point in the episode. But here we are, still alive, we're taking our time, and we're looking for one of these guys. Soon enough, it'll happen. There's a Thrasher at the Amar open stronghold. I'm taking the risk. I'm going to try and land at 0. If I don't land right on this guy, I'm in big trouble. There's only 2 other people in local. I feel like this guy might not be ready for me. I landed on him. Oops, I started running my AAR in panic. I can deheat this.
I'm about to go off like a weapon. Fuel to the top.
He's missing me completely.
In my thoughts obsession, I will not stop. No, I'm never second guessing. I got a God complex. Haters love to hate, but I never feel pressed. Got a lot on my plate, but I never get stressed.
I've got my tight orbit.
Like I'm acing this test on.
I think I'm shooting the wrong ammo. I'm shooting fusion, but he seems to be shield tanked. I'm switching to EMP. I'm gonna reheat my AAR in case I need it. But I think I've got this locked down. The real question is just gonna be, am I gonna be able to break him before his friend shows up? I might actually want to slow down slightly because I'm out-tracking my guns. Let's see if I slow down. Oh no, that's too much. Can't slow down that much. Holy crap. Okay. Be careful how much you slow down. But I am slowly ticking through him. I was like, I'm just gonna slow down a little bit so I can get better tracking. But the second he tracked me even slightly, it was all over. I'm gonna nude him a little bit more just because why not? But he's got the NOS on me. If I get his shields past 30%, then I can break him. He's calling for help in local. Okay, time to heat the guns. Time to heat the guns. I need to finish this before help arrives. There's nothing he can do here. All he can do is hope for the occasional lucky hit. But if I don't slow down again, then even if he does get a hit, I can rep it up before he'll roll another one. We're gonna find out. If he has an AAR as well, then I'm gonna be in trouble. Watch the heat of my guns. Oh, he burned out his guns. I'm not gonna trust his word on it though. He says he burned out his guns in local. I could slow down to do more damage. No, oh no, the battlecruiser hit me. The Imperial battlecruiser hit me. Come on. I'm just terrified of one of those other five militia members in local showing up on grid before he dies. Stop hitting my guns so they don't burn out. Thrasher down. Let's see what's in that wreck. Good fight. A gyro stabilizer 2 and Tech 2 AC. Holy crap. Whoa. Look at all this stuff. Holy crap. Tech 2 200mm. Oh my goodness. Republic feed ammo. Okay, I need to dock up and I need to come back and loot the rest of that stuff. How did he have that much stuff in his wreck? My mind is blown. Oh my god. And 801 LP. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 200mm autocannon 2s and a bunch of hail. And I'll tell you, this gyro stabilizer 2, that's going on the Cynabal.